Today, we're going to be talking about AI in cybersecurity with James McQuiggan from Know Before. Stay tuned. Hey, everybody. Today, we are joined by James McQuiggan from Know Before. Hi, James. How you doing? Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Clint. Good to see you, and always a pleasure to chat with you.
Likewise. In fact, we just got through chatting last week, was it, or like week before last? No, last week. Anyway, but we were at
the week before last.
Black Hat, and it's becoming kind of a annual tradition with us, isn't it? We met. You and I met at a conference. It was one of
S4.
the cybersecurity conferences. Was it S4? I believe it was S4, an ICS cybersecurity conference. Yeah, we were formally introduced by Patrick Miller, who's really, I guess, the unofficial, maybe official head of the Beer ISAC. So tell us a little bit about what you do at Know Before. Also, for those viewers that may not know what Know Before is. So Know Before is the company that the late and great Kevin Mitnick founded, rest his soul. And so tell us a little bit about what you do there and what Know Before does. I think it's an important mission for sure.
Yeah, Know Before is the brainchild of Stu Showerman back in 2010. He retired. He had he was running a antivirus company. He sold it off, at the age where he was, he's like, yep, I'm going to retire. I'm good to go. And about 3 days after retiring, he realized, I can't be in retirement, and decided to form a new company. But he wanted to do something where he could make a bigger impact rather than just antivirus. And one of the things that he'd always noticed was organizations were still getting breached, even though they had the antivirus, endpoint protection, and so forth. And he realized, looking at the user, that's where one of the challenges is people were still clicking on links, falling victim to phishing attacks. So he started Know Before and had a security awareness training program. And then over the years, he actually got to meet Kevin Mitnick's cousin at a dinner where she basically proclaimed, after Stu explained that he was in cybersecurity, she proclaimed, my cousin was a hacker in the 90s. He got arrested. And Stu thought, is your cousin Kevin Mitnick? And she goes, yeah. And so he was able to connect with Kevin. And rather than offer up part of a muffin, he decided to give him half the pie, as Stu likes to explain it, and basically gave over half the company to Kevin in exchange, where Kevin was consulting with Know Before for security awareness programs, consulting on, different attack vectors, training, and that aspect. And then we got into phishing simulations. And so Kevin was very much a part of the Know Before family, and appreciate the condolences. And he will be missed. He produced quite the legacy for a lot of people out there. As we were just out at Black Hat and DEF CON, a lot of people talking about Kevin and sharing stories, and a lot of folks. And I walked around with a whole bunch of free Kevin stickers and pins, and was giving those out to everybody. And that was really cool. But at Know Before, now we do what we like to call new school security awareness training, having content that's not just the same thing every year after year. We're constantly updating it quarterly, getting fresh new content out there, making folks aware of all the latest different attack vectors, everything from QR codes to, smishing and vishing, and then looking at utilizing the phishing simulations to help educate folks as well. Now, my role as a security awareness advocate is essentially to go around and promote cybersecurity with organizations, going to conferences, coming on podcasts. I also produce our Security Masterminds podcast, where we're looking forward to getting you on there as a guest soon, Clint. But also, one of my favorite things is, going to these conferences and presenting, writing articles, and just getting the word out about cybersecurity, promoting it, not only among professionals, but among people that, don't have security top of mind, employee presentations. Last week, I was in Louisville, and I got to present to the U.S. district courts. They came in for a national IT conference, and it was fantastic speaking to all of them and listening to what their challenges are. What are the things they're dealing with? And I was there talking about AI as well. So this is pretty well one of the best jobs I've ever had. I love what I do. I love talking to people, whether I'm security awareness advocate, a college professor, or a chapter president for the Central Florida ISC Squared chapter. It's all about getting the word out, educating people, and getting that inspiration out there as well.
Definitely important, and I have a similar role in education and evangelizing as well. And yes, I agree. It's the greatest job in the world. That was an interesting. Like I thought Kevin had, I thought he had founded KnowBe4. I didn't realize. So that was an interesting story. I bet you that's a story that very few people know. So interesting. Thanks for that. So now, as we know, and for the purpose of this conversation here, and for what my entire channel is about, generative AI, large language models, and we'll put AI, it's in quotes, right? Because it's actually machine learning, right? And we'll talk a little bit about the differentiators between machine learning and AI as we go, because I kind of feel like that we're getting close to the point where I think that the machine learning portion of generative AI, large language models, is becoming AI. So tell us a little bit about how you got into AI. Going, obviously the cybersecurity aspect is pretty obvious, but you specifically going from a security awareness advocate, evangelist, how did you get into this arena of the newly emerging, I would say it's been around for a while, but it's just now emerging in the public view, generative AI, large language models. Tell us how you got into that.
I think I took a wrong turn somewhere, honestly. Last year, end of the year, November, we hear about ChatGPT. We hear about the ability to be able to go and type in something, a question, and get a response without having to, come up with some Boolean operation string or whatever to put into Google to, find our answer. We could literally put in the question, and ChatGPT was coming back with a response. And like everybody else, this was just extremely fascinating. And I've learned about AI over the years, the machine learning. I was working with software back 13 years ago that dealt with predictive analysis, which is a variation off of AI. It's part of that narrow focus that general focus of AI, and so getting involved in that, and then within our own within KnowBe4, they were saying, okay, we're always looking to have new presentations, and so I decided to come up with one about AI with regards to the social engineering aspect, because with KnowBe4, we're all about dealing with the issue of social engineering, helping people make those smarter security decisions every day. And so I wanted to look at it because right out of the gate, I was already hearing and seeing things in the hacker forums on the dark web with regards to, hey, I got ChatGPT to write me a malware program. I got ChatGPT to write me this awesome email in business email compromise. And so that just kind of went, whoa, all right, this is a new game now for the cyber criminals. Because essentially, when we talk about phishing training, and we talk about social engineering, we're always saying, watch out for the emails that are bad grammar or poorly written and have spelling mistakes. Well, that's now out the window. That they're now able to surpass that. It's also with looking at AI, it's now also making it easier for the script kiddies, the entry level cyber criminals, hackers, if you want to say. Hackers is not a bad word in my vernacular. For me, hackers are people that like to take things apart, put them back together, and so forth.
Or take them apart and then unable to put them back together, like me.
Oh, yeah. Well, or you put them back together and there's always those one or two screws you got left around. You're like,
yeah.
So looking at, the AI, the generative AI, especially on the text aspect, is now making it a lot easier for entry-level cyber criminals, people that are looking to try and be malicious without even having that tech experience, being able to go in and create that. Now, one of the things that OpenAI did, which I loved, it cracked me up, is their team, their folks were going out on Reddit. They were going out on the dark web. They were looking at ways people were using ChatGPT for nefarious, malicious reasons. And they would look at it and go, okay, well, we need to fix that. And they would go back into the programming and build up those guardrails, build up those safety nets to restrict those type of emails. And even now, when you go in, if I'm doing research on, I want to look, I asked it last week, something along the lines of, the top 50 cyber attacks, what were they and how were they done and that kind of thing. And it pushed back on me with regards to that as well. So then I had to get a little creative kind of in the prompt engineering aspect to kind of work my way around it of saying, you're a security researcher. We're looking at security attacks. If a cyber, what different topics do I need to research of cyber attacks to be able to get the information and kind of going around that way, because it is still a computer. It is still a electronic system that is doing what it's programmed to do. So if you can figure a way around it, it's kind of like the substitute teacher coming in, in the classes years ago. We would figure out ways to get around what we needed to do. Similar things what we're seeing already with AI. So did that first presentation. Went really, really well, or at least I thought it went well. And since then, every day now, and through that research and prepping for that presentation, and I did that right at the beginning of February. Since then, every day, there's articles in about AI. I get 4 different newsletters that come into my inbox. I have a Google Alert set up that gives me information on AI, artificial intelligence, and that's just full of new articles every day. So it's constantly being evolving. It's constantly changing. 1 week you've got a worm GPT set up, and it's a malicious type generative pre-trained transformer, a GPT, that's set up and running, and they're making money. And then the week later they shut it down because too much media, too many people scamming and everything else. So, and then we also have fraud GPT, and then there's a BERT, and then, there's other ones that are coming as well. So yeah, this is a train to get on, whether you want to get on now or in a year from now. It's going to be like this going forward, constantly evolving. Same with cybersecurity, which ironically I got into back in 2006. Got my CISSP in 2008. And when I got my first cybersecurity role, I remember meeting somebody from SANS, and they turned to me and they said, "You're getting in at the right time. Welcome into cybersecurity." And ironically, I still tell that to people today when I meet new people and they get their certified in cybersecurity or they get their CISSP or teaching or whatever. I'm like, you're coming in at the right time, because the way our industry is.
Yeah, and that's why I feel like generative AI and large language model technology is. There's a lot of people that are afraid of the technology. There are a lot of people that damn the technology. And I one of the things that I say, and I heard this from someone else, and I don't know where it was, or it was a meme, I think, and it was all those people that are afraid of, AI is going to take my job, AI is going to kill all these things, and my saying is, AI is not going to take your job. Somebody else who knows how to use AI is going to take your job if you don't know how to use AI. And because I'm a firm believer in that all of this AI technology that's coming out now is not necessarily meant to replace you, and it's not there yet. It's not smart enough to be able to fully replace you. It still requires human supervision. It still requires you to do fact checking and correct things that it gets wrong. But excuse me, but it is a wonderful supplement to what you do. It enhances what you do. It augments what you do. It'll create this massive baseline for anything that you do. And of course, and I don't want to talk, I don't want to take this conversation to the obvious, because, my viewers and my channel members, there's a lot of material that we have on, like, what is generative AI? What is large language model? So if you don't know what we're talking about here, go back and check some of the videos that I've created on what is generative AI, what is large language model, some of the basics and all of that. But what I do want to focus on, you, James, as a cybersecurity professional, especially in the cybersecurity awareness, know before, being a prominent, probably the most dominant cybersecurity awareness company in the industry. Where, how do you see, and you've alluded to this earlier, that things like ChatGPT, this generative AI technology, large language model technology, has made it easier for scammers to and phishing emails to be more accurate. And there's 2 points I want to touch on. A, how do you see this affecting, and you alluded to it, like you would expand upon that, how do you see this affecting the phishing, the social engineering, and how can we defend against that? And the second thing I want to touch on is, and we can do it separately, but the second thing I want to touch on is that's the detriment part to cybersecurity. So generative AI LLMs are making it more difficult for cybersecurity because it's making it easier for the attackers. But also, like, where do you see generative AI and large language models helping and enhancing security? So, I'll just kind of let you have it.
So I'm going to take a step back. You were talking there before about generative AI taking away people's jobs, and it's not going to take away the jobs. People that are using Gen AI are going to take away people's jobs. Yeah. And several months ago, came across, and this was part of I read in my research, was you had a entrepreneur, you had somebody that was a copywriter, wrote copy for organizations, part for marketing, whatever. And prior to 2023, had successful career, support, had like 25 clients, was doing really well. And ChatGPT comes along, and after the new year, he gets 1 or 2 clients drop off, and then it's another 3. And then by April, they're all gone because they've started using ChatGPT. He's now gone into landscaping, which I thought was interesting. But looking at that, you always need a pilot. You always need someone to fly the plane. You always need someone to go through and do that QA.
That's a good analogy. That's a good analogy. Yeah.
Well, the analogy actually comes from an old boss of a former boss of mine, back in my days working at Siemens, working in a group, it was called Power Diagnostics. And the manager there, he always left me some great words of wisdom. One of them was you always needed a pilot. Another one was situational awareness, attention to detail, and discipline to process. So he always had these great words of wisdom. And one of them was always, you always need a pilot. When we were looking at data for the gas turbines, because my job back then was setting up the network connections, the VPNs, configuring routers, networking, network security, and then led on to cybersecurity. But we were always collecting data on the gas turbines, and we were always analyzing that. And that's where the predictive analysis tools came in my first experience with AI. But it was always, talking about, always got to have that pilot, got to have somebody in there, QA-ing the data, verifying it. Can't believe everything on the internet, right? So, the same thing came into here. Now,
bonjour. Love that commercial. He's a French model. Bonjour.
Bonjour. So looking at how this is easier so that's the ugly part of it with regards to the guy losing his job. And that's probably just one of, I'm going to say, thousands. I mean, expectations are AI is going to generate like 9.5 million jobs. Awesome. Fortunately, we're going to lose about 44. So there's going to be a displacement. We're going to lose people. People are going to have to shift careers.
But that happens with the advent of all new technology, right? Yeah, the automobile, exactly. The printing press,
Yeah, I had heard from one of the judges at this conference I presented, he was talking about the printing press way back, years ago. People write with the way books are being written with the printing press, it was going to be a lot easier. Well, now you had all the scribes that were going to be out of work. Yeah. The same with car manufacturing with the ever famous assembly line. Now it's all robots. Now you've got somebody overseeing all that. Yeah. There's always a shift with technology. It does make things easier. For some people are going to look at it as the ugly. The bad aspect of this with regards to, this is now going to be easier for cyber criminals. They're going to be able to leverage being able to use generative AI. Deepfakes are another big one as well. We're now
because you not only have the large language models, right? You have diffusion models, and you have the ability to animate video, and so some of the technology out there for creating realistic video and realistic audio, right?
Yeah, the whole mocap thing and everything else. Yeah. So that's now getting, here in the United States, next year, it's one of our big election years. And I am already like a long-tailed cat in a room full of rocking chairs, feeling like, what it's kind of like skate in the cloud. And if you know, you know. But getting nervous about what kind of videos are we going to see coming out that, of candidates, good, whether we like them or don't like them. And this is not political, but just in the sense of trying to sway. Years ago, it was just putting out false messages or misinformation and people reading it and then seeing it in multiple places. When you start seeing video or you start hearing audio recordings and they can distort it, they can mess it up to make it sound like it was recorded in a room. You can even take somebody's audio, 30 seconds of their audio, and with AI generate their voice, and you type in what you want them to say, and boom, now you've got that recording.
Yeah.
We're going to have to develop Rachel Toback says that a practical paranoia. I say a healthy level of skepticism. We're going to have to start fact checking and verifying when we start seeing videos online, whether or not they're true or not. We can't believe everything that we see online because it's getting it so easier. And now that you can do it in practically live, in real time, creating those videos, back that up with, okay, great. Now, how do we detect it? There's ways we can do it, but we're nowhere near the advancement in the technologies of being able to detect deep fakes.
Yeah. Well,
it takes
real
process.
quick, sorry to interrupt, but so I was watching a TV show on Apple TV, For All Mankind, right? And there was a quote in there that they said, which was, it was about the whole concept of if it's in the media, it's already true. If they say it in the media, it's already true, whether it's true or not, because that's the perception. And it's already difficult to fight misinformation just because it's in written form. Well, now when you have voices in video, and there's like there was like less than like 1 or less than 9% of the let's go. 87% of statistics are made up on the spot. But I read this that there's like 9%, less than 9% of the people who are, or I don't know, it's like, let me rephrase that. There was like 9% of people using ChatGPT, and the statistics probably changed now. And like right at half or less than half of the population is actually even aware of things like ChatGPT. So when you take that into account, you really have some issues that people are gonna. There's that many people are gonna see these generated video and audio and not know that it's fake. Anyway, sorry to interrupt, but I just wanted to point that out. It's like, I mean, this whole misinformation thing is gonna be a problem. More than it already is. More than it already is.
And there's a great bit on the show, How I Met Your Mother, with Barney, where he talks about statistics. So anyway, I digress. So, okay. So we know there's a problem. We know we're looking at deepfakes. We got generative AI where you've got people that could create. I mean, you've already got phishing as a service that's out there where you've got a platform where you can just go through and you just drop in your email addresses. Now you're looking at, so for them, they're now going to be putting in generative AI because they're going to have English is going to be really good. It's gooder. Yeah, there you go. But the grammar is excellent. It's going to be like as if an English person wrote it. But the game hasn't changed. The threats are still the same. Yes, they're just they're stepping up their game. So for me, when it comes to it, and this comes from my good buddy Roger Grimes, where he came up with 2. He had 4, then he went down to 2, but I go with 3. And basically, there's 3 things I look at when I get an email. Am I expecting the email? Is this person a stranger? And are they asking me to do something immediate, or is there a sense of urgency with the email? And if any of those are yes, or sorry, am I not expecting the email? If any of them answer yes, I'm checking out who it's coming from. I'm checking the source address. I'm checking any links in there. I'm bumping up my little level of skepticism a little bit more to verify. It's that trust and verify position that we've been saying for years. Thinking before you're clicking. People want to clear out their inbox or they're rushed. A lot of the times when we look at our studies and our data of people clicking on links, a lot of the time they're multitasking, they're rushing, they're not paying attention. They're in their cab. They're in a cab of a car and they get an email from Uber. They're waiting for someone to connect in a Zoom meeting and they get an email from Zoom saying somebody's connected.
Yep.
we get distracted and
Yeah.
we
It's
just don't even think through
complacency
it.
compounded by urgency is the enemy of well, good email
Security.
and email security and security hygiene when it comes to the basics, right?
You should put that in a cross stitch. That's like awesome. Have that hanging on the wall.
What's that?
Your statement that you just made.
Oh yeah,
complacency, urgency.
Yeah. Well, complacency compounded by urgency is something. That's I'm gonna make a shirt or something.
Ask ChatGPT. Yeah.
There you go.
So yeah, the name of the game is still the same. Still got to go through, check your emails. Still got to go through and verify. Have that healthy level of skepticism, practical paranoia, whatever you want to call it. But cyber criminals are using email more and more to leverage, to gain access into organizations, to business email compromise, CEO fraud, and those kind of things.
And it's no longer that like poor grammar, spelling. Now because of ChatGPT, you have better crafted emails and worded emails and things like that. Yeah,
exactly. Yep.
So you can't really look at poor grammar as an indicator anymore.
Right.
What are some? So what? Did you have more to say on the pitfalls?
No, I think that was it for now that I can think of. I'm sure something else will come along as we go.
Yeah, of course. But so where do you see ChatGPT, Claude 2, which is my new favorite, or anything, right? Any of the, whether it's generative AI, large language models, whether it's image, text, because there's so much you can do now, right? You can generate text, you can generate video, you can generate voice. Where do you see these technologies helping cybersecurity? How can people use this technology to get into or enhance their cybersecurity careers? How can they use it to help their current job, whether they're a SOC analyst or GRC or whatever? So where do you see it fitting in a good way for cybersecurity?
Right. And these are things I've talked about and doing the research and prepping for the presentation. And again, these are constantly updating. Microsoft, you got Copilot, right? You've got this new SOC tool that's going to...
Is Copilot out? Microsoft Copilot for cybersecurity is coming out, but it's not out yet, right? Yeah.
I've seen some screenshots and video captures of it. But again, when you're looking at, when you're feeding that, because when we look at large language model is the way that you're able to communicate to the AI, to that, to the neural net and everything else. When you're able to feed your data into that GPT, into that model that you've got, not utilizing the internet's version, but if you've got your own, because I'm starting to hear about and see organizations are creating their own internal GPTs to use for their own data and feed their own data into it. That's how Worm GPT worked. They took GPT version J, which was an older one, which had no safeguards in it, and then they fed in all their malware data and information they had in there. So now if you've got organizations that can start feeding all of their logs, all their SIM data, records that are coming in, network information about the network assets, and feeding it into there. And then when you have something show up and you've got to go through and you're trying to dig through logs, you're trying to find that needle in a haystack, I have to imagine that large language model is going to be able to go through and be able to get that information for you a lot faster and be able to diagnose and, go through and treat whatever incident you're dealing with and deal with it a lot faster and get you that information and then write a report about it. What is it? Okay, here you go. 63% of incidents that occur, you have to write a report about it, right? Now you could have your your Gen AI model program write that for you. Look for this and then write me a report or give me an article, a memo that I can send to my CISO, explaining what's going on. You're going to be able to leverage those type of tools within that environment. It's going to be being able to either do it on-prem, or you're going to have you're uploading the data and then you're hoping, kind of like what you're doing already with cloud, that you're going to be able to isolate those and not have the different models communicating back and forth and being able to, transverse over.
Or you have a local model. These open source models are coming out where you can have a local model and a local app, so nothing is going out outside the
but
prem.
even ChatGPT 3.5 that came out, from what I saw, it is like an insane amount of GPUs and CPUs, right? I mean, thousands upon thousands of cores inside their CPUs that are running. So their infrastructure is, maybe because of the fact that it's supporting millions and tens of millions, hundreds of millions of people, they need a big one. But if you're doing something local where you've got 100 people or 200 people or 1,000 people, it doesn't have to be as extensive. But you're right.
Yeah,
the open source.
You have what's called quantized. You can take these models and they can be quantized so that you can run it on a regular GPU, right? So if you want to run this, you could literally, like, if let's say you're on prem with a customer, and you can have a local model on a laptop, like a good gaming laptop, running like an NVIDIA GeForce 4000 series or better, and you can use a quantized model and you can run it. And from my own experimentation, that I know that if you take a general purpose large language model, right, and the reason, there's a lot of reasons why ChatGPT 4 is currently the best at most things. However, if you take a large language model and you train it specifically on cybersecurity data, you take the entire model and then you train it, you fine tune it on cybersecurity tasks, and then you quantize it so you can use a regular consumer grade gaming GPU. Now, all of a sudden, you're going to get the quality of ChatGPT 4 accessible and easier to, and it's going to be plenty fast locally, private, because the data doesn't leave the prem. And it's the reason why it is so much better and it's so efficient is because it's fine-tuned and trained on specific data. So there's that, that's, I've had a lot of fun with that so far. But yeah, I think you're right there in that, in your use cases, it's going to be able to take, I think for me, and I'm already kind of using it this way, is that all the stuff that takes a lot of time, just writing my thoughts, right? Or just trying to take this data and distill it down into some charts and graphs, using some Excel foo, or summarizing this thing, like that takes a lot of time. So I think that's where I see it having the most benefit, is saving time on those tasks that the human can't crunch data that fast, like a SOC analysis or so that kind of, you can't crunch data that fast. Find all the thousands of vulnerabilities that a vulnerability scan finds, stuff like that. So AI, specifically machine learning, can help crunch that data. Then large language models can then create analysis and reports and all that stuff. So crunching data.
Better myself.
Wait,
but it's interesting. It's funny talking on with regards to, from a cybersecurity standpoint. It can also help you troubleshoot. I mean, last weekend, I was wrestling with trying to use Visual Code with Python with a plugin from OpenAI and having all these other interpreters in there. And I couldn't get the OpenAI one to work, and it was driving me nuts. And so I said, all right, forget this. I took the error message and just dumped the error message right into ChatGPT, and it gave me like 5 things to try. And lo and behold, the 4th one on the list actually fixed my problem. And, the heavens opened and everything lit up and it all worked. And I'm like, finally, no error messages. But being able to, and I probably could have done, and I dumped the error message actually into a search engine, and it gave me a whole bunch of pages, and I was trying to go through and ChatGPT delivered it. Well, the generative AI, I didn't use ChatGPT. I think I used Claude 2 for that one. But using the Gen AI and just dumping the error message in there and giving me some suggestions, I was like, oh, this is great. If you're trying to troubleshoot a network configuration on a Cisco router, or you're trying to mess with, you can't understand why a certain log's not coming in on a SIM with whatever, you dump that error, you never know what kind of information, but it's going to make things a lot easier for people to be able to get the job done. And I know for me, I've dabbled in programming over the years, and now starting to play with Python a little bit, just, something else to do in my spare time.
Spare time? What is that?
But knowing that I can just, if I'm trying to figure out how to do something with Python, I could ask ChatGPT to do it, because because I've done that before, where I needed to parse out data out of an Excel spreadsheet. I needed to parse out particular conditions and information. And I said, write me a Python script where I input the file and output 3 files doing this. Boom. And it delivered it. I was like, holy cow. Now, it took it 30 seconds to give me the code. It took me the next hour to get it get it going and working, and then testing and troubleshooting and working. But that only took me an hour. For me to spend weeks and weeks learning Python and then trying to figure out how to do it, I saved a month's worth of manpower, or depending on how fast you can learn Python, and just asked it to give me the code. But then you're going to need, this is where the pilot comes in, you're still going to need to be able to understand what you're putting in and understand the code, so that if you have to manipulate or tweak
to a point,
you can. And it's the same thing with copy editing, with copywriting. A lot of the time when I'm working on an article or a blog or something, I will go into generative AI and give it what I need. And then it gives me back a whole lot of information. And then I take that and go, okay, and I can either work from that, or I like where it's going, and then I write my own. But it kind of handles a lot of the brainstorming for you and gets that removed, and then makes it a lot easier. And then you get your foundation, you get your starting point, and then off you go. And so from the cybersecurity standpoint, it's going to be a huge benefit. And as we start getting more and more services and products, we're already getting AI in the endpoint security, in network security, and looking at behaviors and heuristics, and looking at how data usually transfers versus when a malicious software gets in there and it's trying to do something else, and it can recognize it, go, that's not normal. And they flag it, and it gets reported to your SOC team, and they look at it and go, whoa, hey, and so they're able to respond a lot quicker. So we're seeing that already, but it's going to grow leaps and bounds over the next couple of years easily. And might even sadly, it might reduce the workforce of a SOC, because instead of needing 10 people, you might only need 5. I don't know. So just saying.
Yeah. And again, we're in such an early stage of the evolution of this technology. We are the tip of the
iceberg. This is the tip of the iceberg.
So, all right. So we're coming to the end of our cast here. So I have a few questions that, I know time just flies when you're having fun. So I have a few questions that really they're just kind of quick bits, right? Just like, what are your thoughts on these things?
Sure.
And so, do you see a future, because AI is coming inevitably, it's going, and we're going. So real quick. All right. So when do you think that we will see our first AGI, our first, whether you want to call it self-aware, whether you want to call it was it an AGI?
The advanced or the general?
No, the general intelligence, or artificial general AGI, artificial general intelligence, which is kind of the next step to completely autonomous, if not sentient, artificial intelligence. When do you think we'll see that?
Well, Roy Kurzweil says 2045 is when computer calculations is going to be faster than the human. So 2045, but with everything going on, I'm going to say early 2030s, 10 years from now, 12 years from, by 2035, I think we're going to see something.
Yeah.
I'm going to be retired by then, so nobody can hold me to it.
Yeah, I agree. The 2030s, I agree. I think that people are arguing that it's already here, but I think what you're seeing right now, you're seeing the illusion of AGI, because I don't think that right now large language models don't have the ability to reason. It gives the illusion of reasoning because of the auto-regenerative. Right. It's using auto-regenerative machine learning to regurgitate the most likely next thing, right? It's going to take a massive neural network with massive memory retention, context retention, to be able to actually to reason, right?
It's going to come along. It's going to come along when quantum computers.
That's what I was exactly going to say. That. That's exactly what I was going to say.
Which would be the 2030s, 2040s.
Yeah. I was literally watching a a presentation on YouTube yesterday with Dr. Machio Kaku. I never can pronounce his last name, but he's one of the most famous physicists. But he was talking about quantum computing, and he had a really great explanation. I'll put the link to that video in the comments here, just so that or in the description and in the comments, so that you guys can watch that. It's really interesting if you're interested in quantum computing. But I believe that quantum computing, is the bridge to AGI. So, what does an AGI future for us look like? Does it look like Terminator, or does it look like Star Trek Next Generation? Or your flavor of Star Trek?
I'm the optimist here. I'm hoping it's more like Star Trek. I hope that now we're learning, our governments are learning, and we've seen it already, where they're starting to look at regulations, they're starting to look at more transparency, because that's part of where we're going with AI now. We have to start getting some regulations in place. We can't just let it be the Wild West and let it off to go and do whatever. There has to be controls, there has to be accountability, there has to be transparency with all of this. And OpenAI and Google and Microsoft, they're all coming together and working for that. So that path needs to continue with regards to that overall. And like I said, I'm hoping it's like Star Trek, So
yeah, that's where I am too. I don't buy into the doom and gloom of AI is going to kill us all. I think that humans, will end up being cyborg hybrid, biomechanical, augmented with AI in our brain. I think we'll end up merging like the Borg, but maybe not so hive-minded.
Well, you bring up a good point there, Clint, because I know when you look at people that have lost limbs over the years, either born without them or have lost them due to war, accident, whatever it may be. Mm-hmm. And they're getting a lot more advanced with regards to those prosthetics. You're getting more electronics, more computers are being built into them, being able to tap into the brain. I mean, I didn't read it, but there was an article this morning about AI reading your brain. And I'm like, all right, I got to check that out later. Yeah. But, we're seeing more and more electronics for those prosthetics. Now, if it starts to become something where people want it cosmetically, we know about people doing bio implants, right? Putting things in their hands and their arms, and with RFID chips and stuff like that. So yeah, I think you're right. I think it may be more of a thing down the line. People do more cosmetics. I mean, right now we're wearing smartwatches. We've got our smartphones when a quantum computer comes in one of these, that'll be impressive.
Yeah.
That could be 2050.
Yeah. Right now they look like big, giant, complex espresso machines, right? But that's
the way it was in the 60s and 70s.
Yeah, taking up an entire room. But but when you start talking, because Elon Musk is now trying to do the neural interface with the brain and AI and all that. But so for you naysayers out there, so if we do get AI into prosthetics and things like that, then I guess AI won't have to destroy us like Terminator. It'll just be this. I've got a prosthetic limb.
It'll enhance us.
You make why you hit yourself. I don't know AI. So that's all right. Last question.
Yeah. Yep.
Last question. So with the advances in AI that we have going on, plus also speaking about quantum computing and where quantum computing can take us. And if you're not familiar with what quantum computing is, again, I'll leave that link. It's fantastic. Yep. So last question. So are we? So it's kind of a two-part question. A, are we living in a simulation or not? Are we a simulation or not? And B, if you say we are we the first? What do they call it? The first. First iteration, the first the
first generation,
the first generation simulation, or are we several down the line? So leave that to you.
I can neither confirm or deny that we're in a simulation. Sorry. Sorry. What was the question again? Where are my sunglasses? Yeah, no.
I know that's a touchy subject also, because for a lot of people who have a devout devotion to a religion, find that particularly controversial. So, if you don't want to, and I have my beliefs. I'm doing a video actually in a couple weeks. I'm releasing a video on my thoughts on how AI, simulation, the hypothesis and God can coexist. So
Cool.
so I'm gonna do that. And so anyway, so there you go. There you thought. We'll leave it at that, as in you can neither confirm nor deny there. So James, if you so inclined, you want to tell people how they can get a hold of you if they want to learn more about Know Before, have you speak in their podcasts or whatever, let them know how they can get a hold of you.
So pretty well the best way is through LinkedIn. I'm on there, James McQuiggan. There's a handful of us on there, but you'll find me. Clint will put a link in the show notes for you so you can connect with me. If you do send me a connect request, please let me know how you heard about me. If you just send it blindly, one of my number one rules is I look at mutual connections. If we're not mutually connected at this point now, by at least 20 people, then usually I'm going to go through and review just to make sure. But Know Before, check out blog.knowbefore, KNOWBE4.com, or just Google Know Before. Yeah, definitely.
So on his shirt over there.
It's also on my shirt. Yeah, there you go. But yeah, you can find me that way. If you want me to come speak on your podcast, check out the Know Before site. We have a speaker page. Just Google Know Before and speakers. And you can request me as a speaker to be on a podcast, come talk at your conference, that kind of thing. So but I appreciate coming on, being here, chatting with everybody, and chatting about AI with you, Clint.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. It's always a pleasure. And so everybody, this has been James McQuiggan. And has a really interesting discussions on AI. I wish we had time to talk about more and to cover a lot more, but there's so much to talk about. Maybe there's a future conversation, but I think also, I will be on your podcast. If you want to tell people real quick about how to.
So Security Masterminds is the podcast. I produce it. I'm the guy behind the curtain, marketing it, editing it, finding people to come be on it. Eric Krohn and Yela Videnka are our hosts. They do the discussion. We kind of do it in a unique way. It's kind of like a podcast in a podcast. We interview our guests first, and then we go back and do another recording with the hosts talking about what they had the conversation with. It's very polished and edited. And we come out with a new episode every month. So yeah, we're looking to have Clint come on there and have a great conversation with him.
I think it probably won't be AI though. I think we're talking kind of about cybersecurity, entrepreneurship, and things like that, right? Something like that.
We'll throw in some AI in there. We'll pick your brain. Yeah. We'll pick your brain on some AI stuff. You seem to know a thing or two about AI. I mean,
maybe
the important thing is at least I can spell AI, right? So
you're better off than I am. It's there's no I in AI. Wait, there is.
Wait, yes, there is.
And also, if you want to catch James and I live in person, we will both be at the Houston Technology Summit by Elevate IT on September 21st. We'll be doing a fireside chat together. It'll be us two and one other individual on AI. We'll be talking all about that. So you can catch us there live.
And if you catch me over there, hang on. If you catch me over there, I'll have free Kevin stickers, Security Mastermind coasters, stickers, more stickers. Oh, and here's everybody's favorite.
Nice. So yeah, we'll have swag. We'll have swag too. You want any cybersuperhuman.ai or ThreatGen Red versus Blue swag? We'll have all the swag there. So yeah, catch us there live. I'll put the link down in the description on how to sign up to the Houston Technology Summit by Elevate IT. All right, everybody, thanks for joining us. Thanks, James, for coming on with us, and we'll see you on the next one.
See y'all later.